The catastrophes or catastrophe results of the relocation. So I'll start with some photos of the Wadi Halfa before surveillance. Just before that, just quickly, this is the map of Sudan with Wadi Halfa. To give an idea to some of those who might be too familiar with the map of Sudan and the location of Wadi Halfa. This is the first photo of the Wadi Halfa before surveillance. The name Wadi Halfa at the top. Another beautiful picture of government buildings in Wadi Halfa. One main street with the palm trees. Beautiful scenery of the Nile and the hills surrounding it. This is the Nile Hotel from the Nile. It's a very famous hotel. The famous story, Death on the Nile, written by Agatha Christie, was written partly in this hotel. Another beautiful scenery of the Nile and the buildings surrounding it. The old market in the city, the cafes, the gatherings. Another beautiful scenery of the Nile and the shores of the Nile. This is just an overview of the city without, not in the Nile area. And this is the historical part. This is Ramses Temple, and it was discovered in Wadi Halfa in 1835 and built in that year. And those are the Sudanese pyramids, again around the area of Wadi Halfa. Unfortunately, all that is gone, all that has gone under the waters of the Swan High Dam. So now let me go to the historical facts that led to the catastrophe. The British and the Egyptians, after they conquered Sudan, they did some major studies about how to handle the economic situation, what projects to carry out, and then a major study about the Nile and the waters of the Nile was carried in 1904, completed again and revisited again and completed in 1910. And the study came with the idea of putting together the Jazeera scheme. The Jazeera scheme is, let me quickly just point to the location of the Jazeera scheme. The Blue Nile and the White Nile. This is the Jazeera scheme. The idea was it's a rich area, soil is very rich, a lot of water, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. And the idea was to grow cotton as a cash crop to help the Sudanese government in meeting the needs of the administration, government salaries and buildings and schools and hospitals and roads. And so the idea of the Jazeera scheme was started in 1910. It was, the experiment was very successful, and then became the idea of building a dam. And the Egyptians said, no way, you cannot build a dam because whatever water you hold there will be at my expenses. Whatever drop of water you use in Sudan is not going to reach Egypt. So there were very, very lengthy and complicated negotiations. And the Egyptians not only opposed the Sinnar Dam, but opposed the Jazeera scheme itself. Because the Jazeera scheme means Sudan is going to start using Nile waters, and it will grow cotton which will compete with the Egyptian cotton. That was very important also. So after lengthy negotiation, very difficult negotiation, the Egyptians and the British agreed that, okay, we'll go ahead with Sinnar Dam, but with a very limited storage, no more than 800 to 1 billion cubic meters, and the size of the scheme should not go beyond 300,000 fedans. And to make this acceptable to Egypt, the Egyptians will build the Jebel Awliya Dam. This is in the White Nile, south of Khartoum, and to the exclusive benefits of Egypt. The Jebel Awliya Dam will be built on the White Nile to store the waters of the White Nile during the period when the Blue Nile is in floods. Then as soon as the Blue Nile starts receding, then the waters of the Egypt will start using the White Nile. It was a very complex negotiation, a very complex formula, but it was the only way to allow to get the Egyptians to agree to the construction of the Aswan High Dam. To the construction of the Sennar Dam and the building of the Gazira scheme. So the Gazira scheme started in 1925. That was the official date of the start of the completion of the Sennar Dam. It was a very successful project from the beginning, and it was just a astounding success. The whole world was looking at it. This is a very fertile area, lots of water, the climate is beautiful, and the area is close to Khartoum. The farmers there are used to rain-fed agriculture, so it was not difficult to retrain them in irrigated agriculture. So all those factors combined together to make the scheme a major success. But then, shortly after the 1930s, 40s, the maximum area was reached, 300,000. And the British administration started negotiating with the Egyptians to allow expansion of the scheme, which means there would be no need for more water, and that was just unacceptable and not the point that the Egyptians would be willing to accept. So the negotiations dragged on, and we got into the early 50s, and then in 53 the negotiation became serious when the Egyptians came with the idea of, okay, what do you want to do? You want to expand the Gazira scheme. How are you going to expand the Gazira scheme? We're going to build another dam, because this dam is too small, the Roseris Dam. The Egyptians said, fine, okay, we have no problem building the Roseris Dam, but we have also our dam. We have the Aswan High Dam. That was really a bombshell for the Sudanese and the British administration, because they never knew about the Aswan High Dam. So the Egyptians said, look, we allowed you to build Sennar Dam, and we got Jabalawliya Dam. Now we will allow you to build the Roseris Dam, but we have to get our Aswan High Dam. So the negotiation went on from 1953, and it continued on different points on and then the question of the submergence of Wadi Halfa, Eghraaq Wadi Halfa, and the villages there became a major issue. Will the Sudanese government accept that? Meaning accepting Aswan High Dam means accepting the submergence of the Wadi Halfa area. And that was really a very sticky issue and very difficult for the government. But finally the government agreed, Sudanese government agreed, provided that the Egyptian would pay the compensation, a fair compensation. That was a major concession to Egypt, major concession. The agreement to submerge Halfa. It was really a very unfortunate decision, catastrophic decision actually. So the negotiations went on, and then that led to the Nile Water Agreement, Nile Waters Agreement 1959, that was signed between Egypt and Sudan. The Nile Water Agreement has two paragraphs on the submergence of Wadi Halfa. The first, paragraph 7, reads, required the government of Sudan to take all steps to transfer the population around Halfa, as well as other Sudanese inhabitants whose properties will be affected by the maximum storage of Aswan High Dam to the level of 182 meters prior to July 1963. The agreement was signed in November 1959. Actually, this is the signature of the agreement, Talat Farid and Zakaria Mahyatin signing the agreement. So the agreement was signed in November. It was ratified by two parties late in November, and then the agreement says that the whole process of resettling the Halfa should be completed by July 1963. So it's only 4.5 years. Sorry, only 3.5 years. Only 3.5 years to move everybody. And then for the compensation, paragraph 6 of the agreement reads, for compensation to be paid to Egypt by Sudan for the damage resulting from the Aswan High Dam, Sudan demanded 35 million. And the Egyptians said, no, we pay to you 10 million. And this dragged on for a long time. Sudan reduced its what is asking to 25 million, to 30 million, and then 25 million. And the Egyptians stuck to their guns. We are not going to pay you more than 10 million. And then finally something very interesting happened. during the negotiations when Talat Farid was in Cairo, and the issue became very difficult, 10 million from Egypt and 25 million from Sudan. The Egyptian proposed that let's take the matter to Jamal Abdel Nasser as a mediator, let him mediate between us. It was interesting because Sudan was negotiating, sitting in Egypt, negotiating in Egypt. A major issue came up, and then who is going to mediate between the two negotiating teams? The president of the country which Sudan is negotiating with. It was very absurd situation. Abdel Nasser looked and said, Sudanese, okay, let's come to halfway. You said you will accept 20 million, and Egyptian said 10 million, so let's agree on the middle, 15 million. And that was it. Sudan accepted the 15 million. Actually, the delegation heard it. He said, okay, we got more than 10 million. And the Egyptians were very happy that they brought Sudan down from 35 million to 15 million, and the agreement was signed accordingly. Like I said, this is the signing of the agreement. This is the Aswan High Dam that was the result of the 1959 agreement. And this is the Mosairis Dam. There is no comparison between the two dams. Aswan High Dam is a huge dam that stores 162 billion cubic meters. Mosairis Dam is a small dam that stores at best 10 billion cubic meters. So 162 billion versus 10 billion cubic meters. So the dam was completed in they started building in 1960, immediately after the agreement was ratified. It was completed in 1971, and that was the inauguration day. And during those 10 years, the catastrophes, what I'm calling catastrophes, kawaris, that happened to Sudan took place. What are those catastrophes? The forced relocation of 60,000 Sudanese Nubians. 60,000 Sudanese Nubians. Submergence of Wadi Halfa and 52 villages. 52 villages. And their entire advanced infrastructure. Hospitals, roads, schools, the residence of the people, the farms, the houses. And so the 52 villages are in this map, and I'll be happy to reveal this for the Nubian Club if they want to put in the walls. Those are the villages that were submerged. There was a territorial dispute between Sudan and Egypt on what's called the Halfa protrusion, or Arabic, Nutu Halfa. Those are villages that go inside, just like Halai. It's a similar case to Halai. They are north of latitude 22, and Egypt said, no, those are my villages. And Sudan said, well, those are the colonial maps, just like Halai. So this became a major issue, but then when the relocation came, it became clear that this is becoming a moot issue. The area will be submerged, so what is the point of disputing it? But the interesting thing is that there are the villages of Faras, Serra, Otibera, and Shkit. And the point that came, okay, fine, if Egypt, you are claiming those villages as yours, then those people should be relocated in Egypt. And Egypt said, no, you claim this area, so those are your people. It shows that how the negotiation went. Finally, the population of Halfa protrusion and the two Halfa were located with the Sudanese Nubians. So the 60,000 Sudanese Nubians, 52 villages, including the Halfa protrusion, and then the submergence of 200,000 feddans, 10 feddan of very fertile land. And then there was an additional 1,000 feddans that was under reclamation. There was the McDonald's, which was doing the work, which did the work for the Mosairis Dam. They were doing some studies about improving the soil in that area and increasing the irrigated area. So 200,000 very fertile land, and possibly another 100,000 that will be reclaimed. And then the loss of 1 million citrus and palm trees. 1 million شجرة نخل, مليون شجرة نخل وحوامد. And then the another catastrophe, submergence of large, rich historical archaeological sites, monuments and pyramids. And this is the real painful part. I mean, the whole thing is painful. This is the real painful part, because the entire culture, the entire history was submerged. And then what is it? Some of it was moved to Egypt, and then what could have been, what could have proven that Sudan was far ahead. The Nubians pyramids and the Nubians culture and the Nubians pharaohs were far ahead and were there prior to the Egyptians was submerged. So there's no way of substantiating the historical claim that this area had an earlier and more advanced civilization. Listen. Then, in addition to this, there is the area that was submerged, which is 150 kilometers inside Sudan, contained a large amount of minerals, gold, iron, and uranium. There was this issue. So this was confirmed recently when the mining for gold started, and that area showed this was true, that there is a large amount of minerals, gold, iron, and uranium. And then there is a Semna dam, a Semna cataracts, which the study showed that they could have generated 400 megawatts of electricity, which was enough to really cover the needs of the northern province. That was submerged, that was gone. And after the work was completed and people were moved, those who stayed there and those who were close to the Lake Nubia, which is what's called in Sudan, start having what we call waterborne diseases, like bilharzia, even some cases of malaria. And then there was the issue of unfair and inadequate compensation for submerged land and property. The government passed a law called the Halfa Compensation Act, which is really it's just amazing. Let me just point one thing. For the houses, first class areas, the compensation for 1 square meter is 750 maleems, 75 piastres, less than a pound. Second class, the Rietania, 500 مليم. الثالثة 400 مليم. And just we can build on that. This is the compensation that was passed by the government. But even that compensation was not paid. It wasn't the way of executing it was very haphazard and disorganized, and just many people didn't get even this very small amount of compensation. And then while the construction of the Swan Island was going on and people were being relocated or removed to Halfa Jadida, there was a major problem with the company that was building the houses in Halfa Jadida. There was a major dispute about the quantity and the quality of the work and the payments, and then the company stopped the work. So there was a major hurting. What do you do? Egypt is asking us to move asking Sudan to move the population because the process is going on, and here the houses are not ready. So the government asked the Egyptian government, the Israeli government asked the Egyptian government to extend the period for 6 months, so the houses could be completed and everybody could be relocated. And the Egyptians said, no, we're sorry, we can't do that. We have to stick to the schedule, and that we have to vacate everybody by July 1963, as we agreed in the agreement, 3.5 years. So that created a lot of mess. People were moved, were put in schools and put in shelters because the houses were not ready. And then before that came the issue of where are we going to relocate the Nubians. During the discussion, the Halfa relocation committee, there were 6 areas that were suggested. Wadi, near Bungula, and then the Kadaru, And then also Jazeera, منطقة القديمة, that's what I said. And then Managed area, which was the extension of the Jazeera scheme, and then Tashmil. So those were the 6 areas that the committee headed by Dawood Abu Rafiq, Halfa, looked into, visited them, and then they proposed them to the Nubians who were willing to talk. Many Nubians were not willing to talk, but those who were willing to talk, they said, okay, we will. Those who were willing to talk, some of them, or most of them agreed, said Qadar would be a good area. It's near the Nile, near the confluence of the Nile, close to Khartoum, and it's not far from our culture. Then, so almost there was an agreement on the Qadar, not almost an agreement, but there was some kind of agreement between the few Nubians who participated in the process. And then a bombshell came from the Khartoum. The government said, no, we are not concerned about all of those. We have decided to move you guys to Tashmil. It's an area where there are very few populations that it can take the 60,000 Nubians without any problems with the neighboring communities, and we will build a dam. And so that was a major issue for the Nubians. They refused. And then the whole process turned from opposing Tashmil to opposing the entire resettlement scheme. And then there were huge demonstrations in Halfa, Khartoum, and even in some of the cities, Madani and Albara. And Dawood Abu Rafiq was fired from chairing the committee, and a number of people were arrested, including Wadi. Then for the first time, a lady was arrested. First time was arrested for political reasons. Maasaat محمد. She was a student at the university, and she was arrested in Halfa. So she really made history by being the first lady to be arrested on political. And there were other arrests, was suggestion of arrest. Muhammad Tawfiq was fired from his job as the director of the Ministry of Labor, and many other were some teachers and some administrators. And so the whole process went on, and people were forced to go to Tashmil. People were asking, what did we get out of this? We moved 60,000 people, we submerged 52 villages, we submerged 200 guns, and we are generating a lot of electricity, and you're storing a lot of water in Egypt. Why shouldn't Sudan get some of the electricity? And that was not in the agreement. Egypt said it's not in the agreement. So actually Sudan came out with nothing out of this. Just let me show some of the catastrophic effects. This is an historical monument that was submerged. This is part of the city when the submersion started. This is a temple when the submersion started, because water was gradually, steadily submerging it. It's an area where another historical area, historical site, that was being submerged. Submergence continues. And this is the mosque, the famous Sidi Ibrahim Mosque. This is before submergence, and this is after the submergence started. So you can see the catastrophe building up. And this is the mosque after almost the submergence was complete. It was very heartbreaking. This is another archaeological site that gradually disappeared. Another archaeological site. And one would wonder, why did those historical treasures saved? Egypt managed to save its treasures, but UNESCO got a lot of money from a number of organizations and managed to save them and to move those archaeological. Look at ours. This is something it could have been done with no effort. And look at this. This is really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. Again, look at this area. So I come to my conclusion. I hope I didn't take longer than I thought, Professor. The 1959 agreement is a totally one-sided agreement. Egypt got all its water. Sudan got the disaster of moving 60,000 people, and nothing out of the electricity or the water that was came as a result. And result was the resettlement being one of the, I would call it one of the world's catastrophes. In the past when I gave 10 years, 15 years ago when I gave my presentations, I used to say it is the war in the south and the relocation of the Nubians are the two catastrophes in Sudan. And now we can add the current war and the Darfur war. It is just one of the four catastrophes that Sudan passed through. As I said, Sudan received nothing out of the benefits of the dam. And then there was no appreciation for all that Sudan did to Egypt. There wasn't really appreciation. When the Nubians were being relocated, their land was being submerged, the issue of halal came up. And I thought, it really shouldn't come up. I mean, the Egyptians should have said, okay, fine. Even if halal is ours, you have given us more land in Halfa to build our dam, so take halal. No. They waited until the dam was completed and this resettlement complete, and then reopened the issue of halal. Look at the treatment of the Sudanese refugees now in Egypt. Really no appreciation for all that we did today. I'd just like to conclude with one last remark. There is a book written by Hassan al-Banna called The Nubian Exodus. It was translated, it was written in English, which was, I find, very strange. Hassan al-Banna was the commissioner for the relocation before the hijrah. And he was the top civil servant, was supposed to oversee the relocation process. And he did oversee it. He was very bureaucratic. He did his issue in a very bureaucratic way. 5th of August 1962, I managed to move so many people. I managed to submerge so many houses. It was a very bureaucratic. And the book is again very bureaucratic. You don't feel any pain, you don't feel any sympathy reading the book. And see, but unfortunately, and then the book was written in English. I was wondering, why did he write the book in English? Who is his audience? Who are his readers? And then finally, about 10-15 years ago, the book was translated by محمد Center, مركز محمد بشير في الجامعة الأهلية to Arabic. It was translated by, I think, a Nubian lady, Sumaya Abdul-Majid. So it's available in Arabic. So aside, and the book, as I said, it doesn't really tell the story. It just tells what the bureaucrat did as they were moving the people. So my last point is really there is an urgent need, especially when talking now in the Nubian world, for a full research and investigation of the 1959 agreement and the involuntary settlement of the Nubians, all its details, how it started, who did what, and where it ended. Thank you very much.